Yo, what's going on? It's myself, Subskii producer. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the video. Greetings and salutations to each and every one of you. I know it's been a while since my last video. It's been about 2 or 3 weeks. I know some of you know that I've recently just had a baby girl. She's doing brilliant, so she's occupied a lot of my time, daddy duties, etc, etc, you know, like them ones. Yeah, but soon she'll be sat here doing the music because she's interested in it. I mean, like when I'm sat here and I've got her in my arms and I'm making a beat, she's just zoned out and watching me do my thing, man. So it's amazing. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I layer my drums. I know people have their own ways of layering, and I know there's different various ways of layering, but I'm going to show you how I do it. Let's get crack-a-lacking. So what I've got here, I've got a few instances of Ultra Beat. It's what I use for my drums. I find it so much easier to use. So okay, I'm going to start with the kick. Now I'm just going to play in a basic 4x4. Alright, now what I like to do, I like to get my velocities, especially on the kick, all the way to the fullest. So that's 127. So I go on to fixed velocity and I drag this up until it reaches 127. Then I press select and operate. Alright, now what I want to do, I'm going to duplicate this down, open up my mixer and copy the Ultra Beat over to the next track. First, before I'm going to do that, I'm going to mute, in fact I'm going to name this kick 2, then I'm going to mute that. Going to sort the levels out on kick 1. Put a compressor on here, open up the Ultra Beat again. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a filter, auto filter. I'm going to put it on the high pass. I'm going to pull the cutoff down to about, say, 15. Then I'm going to push the resonance up to about 18. Probably a bit more, say about 33. Then I'm going to move the envelope down to about 34. Bring the threshold up a bit and push up the dynamics just a little. Right, now I'm going to add a gain. The reason why I'm adding this gain is because I'm going to invert the phase so that when both of the kicks are playing, I won't get what is called phase cancellation. That's when the frequencies are hitting at the same point on the same instrument, and it cancels out the main body of it, so there's nothing there. There's either nothing there or it just sounds weak and tinny, really like crap. So I'm going to invert the phase on here. Sweet. Then I'm going to add an EQ. Now I'm not going to touch this EQ yet. What I'm going to do though is to go onto my kick 2 and then work out the kinks. Put a compressor on. Hold on, I'm just going to get rid of this EQ here so I can see what I'm doing better. Then open up the Ultra Beat on kick 2. There we go, sounding toasty. Now what I want to do is put a filter on here, auto filter. Then I'm going to go to low pass. Going to drag the cutoff all the way down to about 5. And then I'm going to gradually work it up until I find that sweet spot. About 18, yep. Then I'm going to push the resonance up. There we go. That's about there. It's all about using your ears. Your ears are your tool. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a gain on here. Then I'm going to put a EQ. Now with this gain, I don't need to invert the phase because I only invert the phase on the lower end of the kick, which is the bass end. Then I'm going to open up the EQ for kick 1. Then what I'm going to do, scoop out all of the high end of kick 1 to about 100 Hertz. Then I'm going to go onto the EQ of kick 2 and scoop out a lot of the low end up to just past 100 Hertz. Now what I want to do, I want to get the high shelf of the EQ of kick 1 and just dip it down a bit, about 94 to 95 Hertz, and I've took out 3 dB, minus 3 dB. And then you go on to the EQ of kick 2, and then you do the opposite but with the low shelf, about 95 Hertz. I've taken out minus 2 dB. Now the fundamental of where the punch is sits about 200 Hertz or just before. So I'm going to boost that on the EQ of kick 2. So now I've boosted it about plus 3 dB. So it's got that nice punch. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to work on the bottom end of the kick, which will bring in the meat. But now what I also want to do is sort out the input levels so they're not sat in the yellow. So there's 2 ways of doing this. You can either put the overdrive on there, or you could turn the volume down through the gain, which will change the volume of the input level. Solo kick 1. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is roll the tone down to about 490 and boost the drive a bit. Then I'm going to go into my gain. As you're doing this, keep on checking your input level. Minus 12, brilliant. Then I'm going to do the same to kick 2. So that's how I layer my kicks. Then like on the track stack of the kicks, that's where I put the overall compressor and a noise gate. Then next I'm going to put a noise gate. So that's the kicks layered basically. So now I'm going to move on to the claps and the snares. So it's basically the same process as what I've done with the kicks, except with the claps. And there's a couple of things that you do a little bit more differently with the instruments that are not the kicks. Then I'm gonna put a noise gate on here. In fact, no, what I'll do, I'll put a overdrive on there, sorry. Then I'm gonna put a filter on. Then I'm going to put a gain on here, but I'm not going to invert any phases. I'm just going to turn the gain down a bit, as it will reduce the input level of the input source. Now I've made a cut on the EQ of the first clap, because I'm going to add 2 claps. I've made a cut on first EQ of the first clap at 2000 Hertz, and I've taken out -2 dB, and I've boosted it at, it should be 1000 Hertz at +2 dB. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to boost it from 3K. I'm going to boost it up to like 3 dB, just drawing the Q a bit. Now, as I play that back, you can hear there's like a bit of a rasp. So I do a bit of fishing around here. And I put it down. And I pull that down there. So I've made another cut at 4450 Hertz at -2 dB. I might take a little bit less off, because I don't want to take too much out of it. About there. So it's at -1 dB, -1.5 dB, sorry. Now, around here, there's a horrible frequency. So I'm going to put it tight about 740 to about 780 Hertz. Actually, I'll move it back down to 670. There we go. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this down. I'm going to load up a new Ultra Beat. In fact, I'm going to name this one Clap 2. On this one, I'm going to boost the drive up only to 7 dB. And I'm going to bring the tone down to about 11.9. I'm going to choose a different sound now. Go into my samples. I'm going to go into the Speed Garage Toolkit. Drums, snares. Overdrive on that. On this one, I am going to put a filter on here. I'm going to filter out the bottom end. The only thing I've got to do now is do the hats. Now with the hats are more of a shimmer. I said this in the last video. You don't necessarily need to layer so many hats, but it's having a variety of hats. That's the trick of it, is having a variety, not the layering, it's the variety. I'm going to shorten the release of the hats down. I'll go into my Speed Garage toolkit again and choose an open hat from there. Now with this one, same process. Put a filter on here, take out the top end again. In fact, I'll take out the bottom end. Put a gain on. Just going to add a close hat. Just for good measure. Then that should be it then. There we go. So basically, as a rough, that's how I layer my drums. I'm going to sidechain these hats with the kick. So basically that is it. That's how I layer my drums. As I says, there's other ways of doing it. People do it their way, I'll do it my way. You acquire your own way of doing things, but ultimately the result ends up the same as how it should, theoretically. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. I hope that you've picked up some tips and tricks and things, and I hope that I've made myself clear in a lot of the things that I was trying to get across and explain. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any new content that I will be uploading, and I shall see you guys real soon. Yeah.